right, so let's move on to the last segment. This is the good, the bad, and the ugly. These are players that we feel like the good players are players that we're projecting to have a really good week this week. Better than usual. The bad is players that will have worse week than they normally do. And ugly players are players that you probably don't want to start but should, because they're probably going to have a decent week. So, Adam, why don't you get us kicked off on the good?
All right, you touched on this guy earlier, and it's almost like I shouldn't. It's almost like on the NFL app how they write the starts and sits and the start and sit 'em advice, and it's like, this guy is never included because he's always a must start. But this year, he just has not been, so far, what he was in the past. And he's been a very underwhelming player for where you drafted him. So it's DeAndre Hopkins.
I thought you were talking about Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, no. So, yeah, I just think he's averaging 12 points per game this year, but roughly half of those, I think, came in week 1 against New Orleans. Yeah. So he's playing Kansas City this week, very plus matchup. So I think he definitely gets back on track, 100 plus yards and a touchdown this week. And I think that's the minimum what you can expect from him. I think it seems like in his career, or in the past at least, once he gets going, he gets going. Yeah. It takes him that one big week, and I think he had 8 or 9 100 plus yard receiving games last year. So it's definitely, we're going to expect this from DeAndre.
He's going to progress and regress to the end, is that what you're saying?
Only progression.
Okay, mine is Mark Ingram, of course, running back for the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens host the winless Bengals. So this is a divisional matchup, so they might play them a little tougher than usual, but the Bengals gave up a lot of rushing and passing yards to running backs this year. I know that Ingram's not a huge pass-catching back, but he does catch a few. So if they decide to utilize him that way, the Bengals, like I said, have given up a lot of receiving yards to pass-catching running backs. And the Ravens are coming off a bye after they lost to the Cleveland Browns, so I think they're going to be a little upset anyway. So we could see a heavy dose of the running game. So I'm projecting him to have a good game.
All right, and I will move on to my good player for this week, and it's DJ Moore. It could actually be DJ Moore or Curtis Samuel. I just have DJ Moore in a league, so I hope it's him. So the Panthers are playing the Bucs this week, and they've basically allowed receivers to go crazy all year. If your receivers are playing the Bucs, they've had a good week for the most part. They've actually already played once this year in week 2, and Moore had 9 receptions for 89 yards, and that was with an injured Cam Newton basically throwing ducks in the air and DJ Moore picking them out and doing something with it. So now you have Kyle Allen and DJ Moore they kind of had a rocky start, but they've kind of got this chemistry going lately. And with those, shorter dump-off passes, DJ Moore has a lot of talent. He can break those, similar to Golden Tate. He's a yard after the catch guy, so I see him having a good week this week.
Great. Okay. Well, let's move on to the middle part of this segment called The Bad. Adam, who do you have for the bad this week?
Okay, and to tie into what you actually just said, how great the receivers are against Tampa Bay, running backs are the complete opposite. And I know this is going to be very unpopular with most people, but I think Christian McCaffrey, you definitely temper expectations for him this week. I'm not going to say that he's going to have a bad week. I'm not going to say he's going to repeat his 7-point week that he had in week 2 against them. But I definitely think with the injury that he's got, he was cramping up during the game. He's just got a bunch of different bumps and bruises going on. The long flight, the early game, playing a divisional opponent. I just think that you definitely are probably not going to expect the 29 points that he's been averaging per game. I see him more around the 12 or 15. So I just think you definitely temper expectations. Tampa Bay is ranked 3rd against the run, or 3rd against opposing running backs.
Another thing that we haven't really brought up about this game that I would be interested to know is I wonder what the atmosphere in London is like. I can't imagine it's a normal game atmosphere because you don't really have a home team and an away team. People are just there to watch the game. So I wonder if that energy or lack of energy hurts their production because it sure seems like those are sluggish games most of the time.
I feel like the jet lag may hurt him worse. The time change in general, I feel like is just a draining thing. But I definitely agree. We don't know how the atmosphere is there.
Yeah, I've never been to a game there. I went to European NFL in Germany back when it was a thing, and
interesting.
It was definitely different.
Yeah,
they kind of cheer different and root a little different. So I haven't really paid attention to that on the London games. We have to do that this week and see. I do remember hearing them cheer though last week when we were watching the Raiders play. So, but like you said, there's not, even though there's a home team officially, there's not really.
It's got to be a weird energy. It's got to just be a different experience. For them.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so my bad player this week is DJ Chark. I love DJ Chark, but he is up against the New Orleans Saints this week, and he's probably going to be matched up with Marshawn Lattimore, who we know shut down Mike Evans last week with 0 catches. So, Chark could have a really tough day. He could still maybe, bust a long play or two if he gets maybe matched up on someone else or, gets lucky and squeezes away for one. So I'm not going to say he's going to have 0 points. I really don't think that. And it wouldn't really shock me if he broke one big play for, 60 yards and a touchdown. But I just don't think – I wouldn't bet on it. I'm thinking that he's probably going to have more in the 6 or 7 point range. So.
Yeah. Okay, and my bad player this week is not quite as controversial as Adam's, but it's pretty close. It's Dalvin Cook. And as Adam was saying, I'm not saying he's going to be the worst play this week. Obviously, you're playing him if you have him, but he's going to disappoint owners that have grown accustomed to those 25-point weeks. They're playing the Eagles, and the Eagles have not given up more than 46 yards all year to the opposing team's leading rusher. And, when you hear that, you think, okay, well, maybe they played some not-so-good running backs. They've played Aaron Jones, Kerryon Johnson, Devonta Freeman, and Lev Bell. Those are all pretty solid running backs. So I'm not saying that Dalvin Cook's going to have a bad week because I think he might gain a lot through the air. But I don't think he's going to have that week that you're used to. I think it might be a 10 or 12-point week as opposed to that 25-point, huge explosion that you like.
Okay. All right. The last part of this segment, this is the ugly. Again, these are players that you feel like, might not look great on your roster. You're not maybe really excited to play them, but we feel like they're going to be productive this week. So, Adam, why don't you kick us off on this one, too?
Yeah, I'll start it. So this player actually plays on a very ugly team as well. So
the ugliest team.
They're tied.
Yeah, one of the ugliest.
They're technically not, right? Because Washington has one more loss.
I'm saying Miami Blue is awful.
Oh, okay, I see.
Well, I think the Bengals are 0-5.
Oh, okay.
Too, right? So yeah.
They're fighting for it.
Yeah.
They're fighting for the bottom heart. So, but my guy's Preston Williams. So he plays Washington this week. They're 29th against opposing wide receivers. And he hasn't had a huge week yet, but he seems to be consistently around that 8-9 point area. And I kind of just was looking into their schedule, and they've played a really tough schedule against wide receivers. So they played, which, to be honest, surprisingly, Baltimore is ranked 23rd against opposing wide receivers. That kind of shocks me. And then they played New England, Dallas, and the Chargers, who are 1, 5, and 10 against opposing wide receivers. So I think you get his first really plus matchup in that offense with Josh Rosen. I think you can expect something around maybe 80 yards and a touchdown. I know that's kind of wishful thinking, hoping, projecting, but I could definitely see something in that range.
Well, and on top of that, another one of their receivers was out, I think, with the concussion. Is that correct? Keem Grant?
Yeah.
So that could help as well.
Yeah. Okay, so mine is D.D. Westbrook. He hasn't been doing a whole lot lately, but like we talked about in the bad section with DJ Chark, and what happened last week with, Godwin having a really good week while Mike Evans is struggling, I think we could see kind of the same thing here. Didi's only had 2 games with over 10 fantasy points so far. And, Gardner Minshew's kind of built a better rapport with DJ Chark. But if Chark's not getting open, Minshew's going to have to throw it somewhere. So I just believe that they're probably going to even maybe try to get it to Westbrook more this week. So I think you could play him with confidence. I think he'll have a really good week.
All right, and I will go with my ugly player this week. It's Teddy Bridgewater. He's playing Jacksonville, which when I hear Jacksonville, I instantly think I don't want to play my quarterback against that defense. But in the past 2 weeks, they've allowed 34 and 26 points. This is NFL points, not fantasy points. But that's to the Panthers and the Broncos, and neither of those are great offenses. I would say that New Orleans is the much better offense of those 3. So he's kind of gained some confidence in this offense. They've won every game that he's played so far, and that he started. And he has two of the best weapons in the NFL in
He does.
Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas. So I'm not saying he's going to explode, but he's going to get you a pretty good baseline if you're struggling with not having a starting quarterback. And I think, is it now 11 of the 32 starters are already out this year? It's some
Something like
huge
that.
number.
Yeah,
It's
really.
like basically a third of the starting quarterbacks are out this year.
Well, and he had what, 4 touchdowns I think last week.
Yeah.
So he's getting more comfortable in the offense, and I think he's progressing quite well. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think he might be one that if Breeze drug his feet coming back, you could maybe play him till Breeze returns.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's a reason they paid him so much money to be a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, they definitely felt confidence. And I felt like last week, from what we saw, was the first time they opened up the playbook for him.
Yeah.
So I definitely see that.
okay, well that's our show for you today. Dynasty guys, any last comments?
No, have a good week. Hopefully everything goes your way.
Yeah, good luck, guys.
Make good trades. Okay. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to our podcast today. We'd love to hear from you. Please send us an email at dynastyguysff@gmail.com. That's dynastyguysff@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Twitter at dynastyguysff. Thanks again for listening. Please join us on our next podcast. See ya.
Appreciate it.